Captain Lisa Martinez stood in front of her small mirror, staring at the golden invitation in her hand. The fancy paper felt strange between her fingers. She had read it 10 times already, but the words still seemed impossible. You are cordially invited to the annual Terra Prime Charity Gala aboard Luna Station. Lisa shook her head and placed the invitation on her desk. Her small quarters on the military station felt even smaller now. The walls were covered with pictures of her crew and maps of the outer colonies. This was her world, not fancy parties with rich people. She picked up the invitation again. The gala was in 3 days. It would raise money for the new colonies, on the edge of human space. Those colonies needed help. Food, medicine, building supplies. Lisa had visited many of them during her missions. She had seen families living in basic shelters, working hard to build new lives on distant worlds. The door chimed. Come in, Lisa called out. Her friend Captain Danny Rivera walked in. He was holding a cup of coffee and grinning. So, you going to this fancy party or what? Lisa held up the invitation. I don't know why they invited me. I'm not rich. I don't wear fancy dresses or know which fork to use for salad. Danny sat down on her small couch. Maybe that's exactly why they invited you. You've been to more colony worlds than anyone. You know what they need. Lisa thought about this. She had grown up on Freight Station 7. Her father moved cargo between planets. Her mother fixed broken ships. They never had much money, but they worked hard. Lisa learned to pilot ships by watching her father. She joined the military because she wanted to help people. The colonies do need help, she said quietly. Exactly. And who better to speak for them than you? Lisa walked to her closet. She pushed aside her work uniforms and found her dress uniform. It was clean and pressed, but simple, not like the expensive gowns the rich women would wear. I'll look out of place, she said. Danny laughed. Lisa, you commanded 3 ships during the New Geneva evacuation. You saved 8,000 people. You think some fancy ladies in pretty dresses are scarier than Arcturus pirates? Lisa smiled a little. The New Geneva evacuation had been difficult. A solar storm was coming, and they had to move everyone off the planet fast. Lisa had worked for 36 hours straight, organizing the ships and making sure every person got to safety. That was different, she said. I knew what I was doing then. You know what you're doing now, too. You're representing the colonies, the people who work hard and take risks to build something new. Lisa nodded slowly. Danny was right. She had a job to do. 3 days later, Lisa stood in the docking bay of Luna Station. The station was huge and beautiful. Crystal windows showed the Earth spinning below. Expensive shops lined the main corridors. Everything was clean and shiny. Lisa adjusted her dress uniform. She had polished her metals until they gleamed. Her boots were perfectly clean. She looked like a soldier, and she was proud of that. Other guests walked past her toward the main ballroom. The women wore long, flowing dresses that probably cost more than Lisa made in a year. The men wore suits that fit perfectly. They laughed and talked in quiet voices about stocks and investments and vacation homes on different planets. Lisa felt her stomach tighten. She did not belong here. But then she thought about the colonies. She remembered little Jenny Clark on Frontier Station, who had given Lisa a drawing of her family's new farm. She thought about the miners on Asteroid Base 7, who worked dangerous jobs to send money back to Earth. She thought about the scientists on the research stations trying to find new ways to grow food in space. These people needed help. If Lisa could help them by coming to this party, she would do it. She walked toward the ballroom. The entrance was decorated with flowers from a dozen different worlds. Music played softly. Waiters in white uniforms carried trays of food and drinks. Lisa took a deep breath and stepped inside. The ballroom was enormous. The ceiling was made of clear material that showed the stars outside. Hundreds of people moved around, talking and laughing. Everyone looked comfortable and confident. Lisa found a quiet corner and watched. She recognized some faces from news broadcasts, politicians, business owners, celebrities. These were the people who made decisions that affected millions of lives. Waiter approached with a tray of drinks. Lisa took one and thanked him. The glass was made of real crystal, not the plastic cups she was used to. "Excuse me," said a woman's voice. Lisa turned. 3 women stood nearby. They were all beautiful and well-dressed. Their jewelry sparkled in the light. Their hair was perfect. Their smiles looked practiced. "You must be Captain Martinez," said the first woman. She was tall with blonde hair. "I'm Helena Blackwood. These are my friends Victoria Sterling and Camille Cross." Lisa nodded politely. "Nice to meet you." "We were just wondering," said Victoria. "How exactly did you get an invitation to this event?" The question surprised Lisa. "I'm not sure what you mean." Camille laughed, but it was not a kind laugh. "Well, this is usually for people of a certain status, donors, you know, people who can actually afford to contribute to the cause." Lisa felt her face grow warm. "I care about the colonies. I've worked with many of them." "Oh, I'm sure you have," said Helena. "But caring and belonging are 2 different things, don't you think?" The 3 women looked at each other and smiled. Lisa realized they were enjoying this. They wanted to make her feel uncomfortable. "Your uniform is interesting," said Victoria. "Very military, very practical." "We were expecting evening gowns," added Camille, "but I suppose not everyone understands the dress code." Lisa's hands tightened around her crystal glass. She wanted to leave, but she thought about the colonies again, about the people who needed help. "I'm here to support the cause," she said quietly. "Of course you are, dear," said Helena. "How noble." The 3 women continued talking, but Lisa stopped listening. She looked around the ballroom and wondered if coming here had been a mistake. Across the room, someone else was watching the conversation with growing anger. Helena Blackwood smiled sweetly at Lisa, but her eyes were cold. "So tell us, Captain Martinez, what exactly do you do in the military?" Lisa straightened her shoulders. "I command supply missions to the outer colonies. We deliver food, medicine, and equipment to new settlements." "Oh, how useful," said Victoria Sterling, taking a sip of her expensive wine. "Like a delivery service," Camille Cross giggled. "How quaint. I had no idea the military did grocery runs." Lisa felt her cheeks burn. "It's more than that. These colonies are on dangerous worlds. Pirates attack the supply ships. We have to fight our way through sometimes." "Pirates?" Helena raised an eyebrow. "How dramatic. I suppose you think that makes you some kind of hero." Other guests began to notice the conversation. Some moved closer, pretending to look at the art on the walls while listening. Lisa saw them whispering to each other. "I don't think of myself as a hero," Lisa said quietly. "I just do my job." "Your job," repeated Victoria. "Yes, well, we all have jobs, dear. Mine is managing my family's mining company. We own 17 asteroid mines. And I run the Sterling Foundation," added Helena. "We've donated millions to charity." Camille nodded. "My husband owns 3 luxury hotels on Mars. We employ thousands of people." The 3 women looked at Lisa expectantly. She knew they wanted her to feel small and unimportant compared to their wealth and power. "The colonies are grateful for any help they can get," Lisa said. Helena laughed, and the sound was sharp. "Oh, I'm sure they are. But gratitude doesn't pay for charity galas, does it? Tell me, Captain, how much are you planning to donate tonight?" Lisa's stomach dropped. She had not thought about donations. She had assumed her presence was enough. Her military salary was decent, but nothing compared to these people's wealth. I hadn't decided yet," she said. Victoria leaned closer. "You hadn't decided?" "This is a charity event, darling. People come here to give money. Big money, not pocket change." "The minimum donation is 50,000 credits," said Camille. "That's just to get in the door." Lisa's face went pale. 50,000 credits was almost her entire yearly salary. "Oh my," said Helena, noticing Lisa's expression. "You didn't know, did you?" Poor thing. Someone made a mistake with the invitation list. More people were staring now. Lisa could hear whispers getting louder. "Look at her uniform," someone said behind her. Who invited her? Asked another voice. She doesn't belong here. Victoria stepped closer, her voice getting louder so others could hear. It's really quite simple, dear. This event is for people who can actually contribute. People with means. People with class, added Camille. Helena nodded. It's nothing personal, you understand. It's just that there are certain standards. This isn't a military mess hall. Lisa looked around the ballroom. Everyone was watching her now. Some faces showed pity, others showed amusement. A few people were taking pictures with their phones. I work hard, Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sure you do, said Victoria, in your own way. But working hard and being successful are two different things. Success, said Helena, is measured by what you achieve, what you build, what you own. Camille gestured around the elegant ballroom. This is success. Private schools, luxury homes, yachts, servants. That's what real achievement looks like. Lisa thought about her small quarters on the military station, her single room with a narrow bed and a tiny desk, her few possessions, her second-hand furniture. I help people, she said. Helena's laugh was cruel now. Help people? Darling, we help people too. We create jobs, we build businesses, we fund research, we make the economy work. You carry boxes, said Victoria. There's a difference. A big difference, agreed Camille. The circle of watchers grew larger. Lisa felt trapped. She wanted to run, but her legs felt heavy. Tell us, said Helena, raising her voice so everyone could hear. What exactly did you think you were doing here tonight? Lisa looked at the three women, their perfect makeup, their expensive jewelry, their confident smiles. Then she looked at the crowd, watching her. All of them wealthy, all of them comfortable, all of them looking at her like she was some kind of strange animal. I thought I could help the colonies, she said. Help them how? Asked Victoria. By standing in the corner in your little uniform? By showing people what the colonies need, Lisa said, her voice getting stronger. Camille shook her head. What they need is money. Real money. From real people. Not feel-good speeches from, she paused, looking Lisa up and down. From the help. The word hit Lisa like a slap. The help. That's what they thought she was. A servant. Someone who worked for her living instead of inheriting wealth. My father was a cargo pilot, Lisa said. My mother fixed starships. They worked 16-hour days to pay for my school. How touching, said Helena. But that just proves my point. You come from working people, service people. There's nothing wrong with that. But it doesn't make you one of us. You don't understand what it means to build something, said Victoria. To create wealth, to manage investments, to make decisions that affect thousands of workers. You follow orders, said Camille. We give them. Lisa's hands shook. She set down her crystal glass before she dropped it. The colonies? She started to say. The colonies will be fine, Helena interrupted. The people in this room will make sure of that. Real people. People who matter. People with influence, added Victoria. People with power, said Camille. The three women stood closer together, looking down at Lisa. Behind them, the crowd whispered and pointed. Lisa heard fragments of conversation. So embarrassing. Who thought this was a good idea? Someone should ask her to leave. Lisa felt smaller and smaller. She thought about leaving. She could walk out right now and never come back. No one would stop her. But then she thought about little Jenny Clark's drawing, about the miners risking their lives on dangerous asteroids, about the scientists working in freezing laboratories on ice worlds. Those people mattered too. They worked hard. They took risks. They built new homes on impossible worlds. I belong here, Lisa said quietly. Helena's eyebrows shot up. Excuse me? I said I belong here. I represent the colonies, the people who are actually doing the work. Victoria laughed. The work? Darling, we're the ones paying for everything. You're paying, said Lisa. But they're building. With their hands. With their lives. Camille shook her head. How naive. Money makes the world go round, dear. Not good intentions. The colonies need both, Lisa said. What they need, said Helena, is for people to know their place. The crowd murmured agreement. Lisa felt the weight of their judgment. She was outnumbered, outclassed, and out of place. But she was not ready to give up. Unknown to everyone in the ballroom, someone had been watching the entire conversation from the shadows near the entrance. Someone who knew exactly who Lisa Martinez was and what she had accomplished. Someone who was getting very angry. Commander Jake Sullivan stood near the ballroom entrance, his jaw tight with anger. He had arrived 30 minutes ago, hoping to slip in quietly and make a small donation before leaving. Jake hated fancy parties, but he cared about the colonies. He watched the three wealthy women circle Lisa Martinez like sharks. Jake knew exactly who Lisa was. Every military officer in the galaxy knew her name. 2 years ago, Jake had been leading a fighter squadron near New Geneva when the solar storm hit. His ships were damaged and running out of fuel. Pirates had attacked during the evacuation, trying to steal supplies from the fleeing civilians. Jake's squadron was outnumbered 3-1. They were about to be destroyed when Lisa Martinez arrived, with her supply fleet. She had turned cargo ships into weapons, using them to ram the pirate vessels. Her brilliant tactics had saved Jake's entire squadron and 8,000 civilians. Now he watched her being humiliated by 3 spoiled rich, women who had never risked anything in their lives. Jake moved closer, pushing through the crowd. He was tall and lean, with dark hair and quiet eyes. He wore a simple black suit, nothing fancy. Most people did not recognize him, which was exactly how he liked it. The problem with people like you, Helena Blackwood was saying to Lisa, is that you think effort matters more than results. We get results, Lisa said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. Victoria Sterling laughed. What results? You deliver boxes. We build empires. We create wealth, added Camille. Cross. Real wealth that funds real progress. Jake stepped into the circle. Excuse me, he said politely. The 3 women turned to look at him. Helena smiled automatically, the way rich people did when they met someone new. Oh, hello. I don't think we've met. No, said Jake. We haven't. Victoria looked him up and down. His suit was nice but not expensive. His watch was military issue. His shoes were clean but worn. Are you with the catering staff? She asked. Jake almost smiled. No, I'm a pilot. Camille made a face. Another one? Are we collecting working class people tonight? It seems that way, said Helena. The invitation list was clearly not screened properly. Jake looked at Lisa. She was pale but still standing straight. Her medals caught the light from the crystal chandelier. He had earned some of those same medals. He knew what they meant. I couldn't help but overhear your conversation, Jake said calmly. Victoria waved her hand dismissively. We were just explaining to the captain here that this event is for serious contributors, people who can make a real difference. Real difference, Jake repeated. That's interesting. Helena stepped closer to Jake. Exactly. This gala raises millions of credits for the colonies, money that pays for real infrastructure, hospitals, schools, transportation networks. Important work, said Jake. Camille nodded. Much more important than whatever it is military people do out there. What do you think military people do? Jake asked. The 3 women looked at each other. Victoria shrugged. Security, I suppose. Guard duty, moving supplies around. Basic labor, said Helena. Nothing too complicated, added Camille. Jake looked around the ballroom. More people had gathered to watch. He recognized several faces. Politicians, business owners, celebrities, people who lived comfortable lives on safe worlds. Captain Martinez, Jake said, turning to Lisa. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions? Lisa looked surprised. Sure. You command supply missions to the outer colonies, correct? Yes. How many colonies have you visited? Lisa thought for a moment. 43. And how many people live in those colonies? About 2 million total. Jake nodded. 2 million people living on worlds that most of us would consider uninhabitable. How do they survive? Lisa's voice grew stronger as she talked about her work. They're incredibly resourceful. They build underground cities on ice worlds. They grow food in artificial atmospheres. They mine asteroids in the middle of space. Dangerous work, said Jake. Very dangerous. Equipment fails. Storms hit without warning. Pirates attack supply convoys, Helena interrupted. This is all very touching, but we know the colonies are difficult. That's why we're raising money to help them. Jake looked at her. You've been to the colonies? Well, no, but I've seen the reports. Reports, said Jake. Victoria, have you visited any colonies? Victoria laughed. Of course not. Why would I go to some frozen wasteland when I can help from here? Camille? Camille shook her head. I prefer civilized planets, thank you. Jake turned back to Lisa. Captain, tell me about the New Geneva evacuation. Lisa's face changed. The memory was still difficult for her. Solar storm was coming, Category 5. We had 18 hours to evacuate 8,000 people. How many ships did you have? Not enough. 12 cargo ships and 6 fighters. But you got everyone out? Lisa nodded. We had to make multiple trips. The fighters provided escort while the cargo ships flew back and forth to the evacuation stations. Pirates attacked during the evacuation, didn't they? Lisa's jaw tightened. 3 pirate squadrons, 36 ships. They wanted to steal the supplies and capture civilians to sell as slaves. The ballroom had gone very quiet. People were listening now. Jake kept asking questions, his voice calm and professional. How many ships were in your fighter escort? 6. 6 ships against 36. Pirates. Those are bad odds. Yes. What did you do? Lisa looked around the silent ballroom. I turned the cargo ships into weapons. We rammed the pirate vessels, used our larger mass to destroy their fighters. Dangerous tactic. Very dangerous. We lost 2 cargo ships, but we saved the civilians. Jake nodded slowly. 8,000 people, families, children, scientists, workers, all alive because of your decisions. Helena tried to interrupt. That's very heroic, but we're talking about practical matters here. Money matters. Jake turned to her, and something in his eyes made her step back. You're right. Money matters. Tell me, how much did you personally donate to help the New Geneva refugees after the evacuation? Helena's mouth opened and closed. Well, my foundation made several contributions. How much? I don't recall the exact amount. Jake looked at Victoria. How about you? Victoria looked uncomfortable. The Sterling Foundation supports many causes. The New Geneva refugees. How much? I'd have to check my records. Jake turned to Camille. She was already shaking her head. I wasn't even aware of the situation until much later. Jake nodded slowly. So none of you helped the survivors of New Geneva, but Captain Martinez risked her life to save them. The ballroom was completely silent now. Jake could see understanding dawning on some faces. Others looked ashamed. Captain, Jake said to Lisa, how many colony worlds have you helped evacuate during emergencies? 7, Lisa said quietly. How many people saved? Around 20,000. 20,000 lives, Jake repeated, looking around the ballroom. How many of you have saved even one life? No one answered. Jake waited, letting the silence stretch. Helena finally spoke, her voice much smaller than before. We contribute money. Money is important, Jake agreed. But someone has to be willing to risk their life to deliver that money. Someone has to fly through pirate attacks and solar storms and equipment failures to make sure help reaches the people who need it. He looked directly at the 3 women. You think you're better than Captain Martinez because you have money. But money without courage is just numbers on a screen. Victoria tried to recover. You don't understand. We create opportunities, we build businesses, we employ people. Jake's expression didn't change. What's your name? He asked Victoria. Victoria Sterling. And you? He asked Helena. Helena Blackwood. Camille Cross, said the third woman without being asked. Jake nodded. I'll remember those names. Something in his tone made all three women very uncomfortable. In the crowd, people began whispering again. But this time they weren't talking about Lisa's uniform or her background. They were asking each other who the quiet man in the simple black suit was, and why his words carried so much weight. The whispers in the crowd grew louder. People turned to their friends asking questions. Who was this quiet man? Why did he know so much about military operations? Why did Helena, Victoria, and Camille look so worried? Jake Sullivan stood calmly, in the center of the circle, his hands clasped behind his back. He looked like a teacher giving a lesson, but his eyes were hard. Captain Martinez, he said, tell everyone about the Titan colony rescue. Lisa looked confused. How do you know about that? Just tell them. Lisa took a deep breath. Titan colony was hit by equipment failure. Their life support systems broke down. 3,000 people were going to die in 48 hours. What did you do? We had to fly through an asteroid field to reach them. The regular shipping lanes were blocked by debris from a solar storm. Jake nodded. Flying through asteroid fields is dangerous. Very dangerous. One wrong move and your ship gets torn apart, but you went anyway. People were dying. We had the medical supplies they needed. Helena tried to interrupt again. This is all very dramatic, but we need to get back to the real business of the evening. Jake looked at her. The real business? You mean the part where you tried to humiliate? A war hero? War hero? Victoria laughed, but it sounded forced. She delivers supplies. That's not the same as being a war hero. Jake's expression darkened. Captain Martinez, tell them about the Battle of Kepler Station. Lisa went very still. I don't like talking about that. Why not? People died, good people. But you saved more people than you lost, didn't you? Lisa nodded slowly. The pirates had taken the station. 500 civilians were trapped inside. They were going to sell them as slaves. The ballroom was completely silent now. Even the musicians had stopped playing. How many pirate ships were defending the station? Jake asked. 24. How many ships did you have? 8. Someone in the crowd gasped. 8 ships against 24 was suicide. What was your strategy? Jake asked. Lisa's voice was quiet but steady. We used the station's own defenses against the pirates. I sent 2 ships to draw their attention while the other 6 attacked from behind. Risky plan. Very risky. We lost 3 ships. 36 good soldiers died, but you saved the civilians. All 500 of them. Jake turned to face the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in the presence of someone who has saved over 25,000 lives, someone who has fought pirates, flown through asteroid fields, and risked her life countless times to protect innocent people. He pointed at Helena, Victoria, and Camille. These 3 women spent the last hour telling Captain Martinez that she doesn't belong here, that she's not important enough, that she's just the help. The crowd murmured angrily. People were looking at the 3 wealthy women with disgust. Victoria tried to defend herself. We were just making conversation. We had no idea she was so accomplished. You had no idea, Jake repeated. You saw a woman in a military uniform and assumed she was beneath you. Camille stepped forward. Look, we may have been a little rude, but you're making this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. Jake's voice got very quiet, which somehow made it more frightening. A bigger deal? You tried to destroy someone's dignity in front of hundreds of people. You wanted to humiliate her for your own entertainment. Helena raised her chin defiantly. Who are you to lecture us? You still haven't told us your name. You're probably just another nobody trying to make us look bad. Jake smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant smile. My name is Jake Sullivan. For a moment, nothing happened. Then someone in the crowd gasped. A woman dropped her wine glass and it shattered on the floor. Jake Sullivan? Whispered a man near the back. The Jake Sullivan? The hero of the Arcturus crisis? Asked another voice. The pilot who saved the Mars colonies? The whispers spread through the ballroom like wildfire. People pulled out their phones, taking pictures. Others moved closer, trying to get a better look. Helena, Victoria, and Camille looked confused. "Who is Jake Sullivan?" Helena asked her friends quietly. But other people heard her question. A businessman stepped forward. "Jake Sullivan is the most famous pilot in human space. He's saved more lives than anyone in history. He stopped the Arcturus invasion single-handed," added a woman in an expensive dress. "He's won every medal the military gives out," said another man. Jake held up his hand for quiet. "I'm not here to talk about myself. I'm here because I watched 3 women try to destroy a good person for no reason other than cruelty." He looked directly at Helena. "You asked Captain Martinez what she was doing here. Let me tell you what she was doing. She was representing the people you claim to help. The colonists, the workers, the families building new lives on dangerous worlds." Victoria tried to speak, but Jake continued. "You said she carries boxes. Do you know what's in those boxes? Medicine for sick children. Food for hungry families. Equipment to keep people alive in environments that would kill you in minutes." He turned to Camille. "You said she follows orders instead of giving them. Do you know what orders she follows? Orders to risk her life for strangers. Orders to fly into danger to save people she's never met." Jake's voice grew stronger. "You 3 have spent your whole lives being handed everything. Money, status, comfort. You've never had to earn anything. You've never had to sacrifice anything. You've never put anyone else's life before your own." The crowd was getting angry now. People glared at Helena, Victoria, and Camille. Someone booed. Others shook their heads in disgust. "Captain Martinez," Jake said, turning back to Lisa, "has spent her entire career earning her place through courage, skill, and dedication. She doesn't need money to prove her worth. Her actions speak louder than any bank account." Lisa looked overwhelmed. "Commander Sullivan, Commander." Helena interrupted. "You're a commander too?" Jake nodded. "Fleet Commander Jake Sullivan. I command the 5th Battle Group." More gasps from the crowd. The 5th Battle Group was the most elite military unit in human space. Victoria's face went white. "The 5th Battle Group saved my cousin during the Mars evacuation." Camille looked sick. "My brother-in-law served under you during the Outer Rim War." Helena just stared, finally understanding how badly she had misjudged the situation. Jake addressed the entire ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that you judged someone based on their clothes instead of their character. You assumed that wealth equals worth and that service equals servitude." He gestured toward Lisa. "This woman has done more for humanity than everyone in this room combined. She has earned her place here 1,000 times over." The crowd began to applaud. Slowly at first, then louder and louder. People cheered and whistled. Someone shouted, "Speech! Speech!" But Lisa looked terrified. She had never been comfortable with attention. She preferred to work quietly in the background. Jake saw her discomfort and stepped closer. "You don't have to say anything if you don't want to." Lisa looked around the ballroom. Hundreds of faces looked back at her expectantly. These were powerful people, politicians, business leaders, celebrities. Their opinions mattered. Their money could help the colonies. She thought about Jenny Clark's drawing, about the miners on the asteroids, about all the people working so hard to build better lives on distant worlds. Maybe it was time to speak up for them. Helena, Victoria, and Camille stood frozen in the center of the circle, surrounded by angry, disappointed faces. They had gone from being the queens of the social scene to being the most hated people in the room, and the evening was far from over. Lisa Martinez looked around the ballroom at all the expectant faces. Her heart was beating fast. She had commanded ships in battle, but standing in front of rich people scared her more than pirates. Jake Sullivan stepped back, giving her space. He nodded encouragingly. "Tell them about the colonies," he said quietly. Lisa took a deep breath. Her voice shook a little at first. "I'm not good at speeches." "You don't need to be. called out someone in the crowd. Just tell us the truth. Lisa found that voice in the crowd. It belonged to an older woman with kind eyes. The woman smiled and nodded. The truth, Lisa repeated. She thought about that. The truth is that the colonies are full of the bravest people I've ever met. Her voice grew steadier. They leave everything behind to build new worlds. They take their families to places where the air might kill them, where the ground might freeze them, where storms might destroy everything they've built. People in the crowd leaned forward, listening. I've been to 43 colonies, Lisa continued. I've met farmers growing food in caves on ice worlds. I've met miners working in zero gravity, floating in spacesuits for 12 hours at a time. I've met teachers holding school in bomb shelters because pirates might attack. Helena Blackwood tried to edge toward the exit, but people blocked her way. They wanted her to hear this. These people don't have trust funds, Lisa said, looking directly at Helena. They don't have vacation homes or expensive jewelry. Most of them live in prefab shelters that are smaller than your closets. Victoria Sterling crossed her arms defensively. We know the colonies are rough, that's why we raise money for them. Lisa turned to Victoria. Do you know what they asked me to tell you tonight? Victoria looked uncomfortable. What? They said. To tell you thank you. Thank you for caring about people you've never met. Thank you for giving money to help strangers build better lives, the crowd murmured. Some people looked ashamed. They don't know that some of you think they're beneath you, Lisa continued. They don't know that you see them as charity cases. They think you're heroes. Camille Cross spoke up, her voice defensive. We are helping them. We give millions of credits. You do, Lisa agreed, and that money saves lives. But you give it from here, from your safe, comfortable world. You write checks and feel good about yourselves. Then you go home to your mansions and forget about the people who are actually doing the work. She gestured around the elegant ballroom. Look at this place. Look at your dresses, your jewelry, your expensive food. This one party probably cost more than an entire colony spends in a year. A businessman in the crowd called out, What are you saying? That we shouldn't have nice things? Lisa shook her head. I'm saying you should remember what nice things cost. Not in money, but in human sacrifice. She pointed to her uniform. You see this and think I'm just a delivery person. But every run I make, people's lives depend on me getting through. If I fail, families go hungry. If I'm late, people die. Jake Sullivan watched Lisa with pride. She was finding her voice, speaking with the same courage she showed in battle. You want to know what real success looks like? Lisa asked the crowd. I'll tell you. She pulled out her phone and showed them a picture. This is Jenny Clark. She's 8 years old. She lives on Frontier Station with her parents. Her father farms algae in underground pools. Her mother maintains the life support systems. People crowded closer to see the picture. Jenny drew me a picture of her family's new farm. She wants to be a pilot when she grows up so she can help other colonies like hers. Lisa showed another picture. This is the Yamamoto family. They run a mining operation on Asteroid Base 7. The parents work 16-hour shifts in spacesuits. Their 3 kids study engineering by computer link because there's no school. She scrolled to another photo. The Chen family. They're scientists on Ice World Station. They're developing new ways to grow food in freezing temperatures. If they succeed, millions of people will be able to eat better. Lisa put her phone away and looked around the ballroom. These people work harder than anyone in this room. They risk more, sacrifice more, achieve more. But you think you're better than them because you have money. Helena tried to speak. We never said— You did say, Lisa interrupted. You said I don't belong here because I come from working people. You said caring and belonging are different things. You called me the help. The crowd's anger was growing. People glared at Helena, Victoria, and Camille. You want to know the difference between us? Lisa asked the 3 women. When Jenny Clark grows up, she'll remember the pilot who brought supplies to her colony. She'll remember that someone cared enough to risk their life for her family. She stepped closer to Helena. But when your children grow up, what will they remember? That you wore pretty dresses to charity parties? That you wrote checks to make yourself feel important? Helena's face was red with embarrassment and anger. You have no right to judge us. You're right, Lisa said. I don't. But the colonies do, and they judge you by your actions, not your bank accounts. Jake Sullivan spoke up. Captain Martinez, tell them about the colony names. Lisa smiled for the first time all evening. Oh yes, the colony names. She addressed the crowd. Many colonies are named after their founders or their home planets. But some are named after people who helped them. She looked at Helena, Victoria, and Camille. There's a research station called Martinez Base. They named it after me because I delivered medical supplies during an outbreak that would have killed everyone. The crowd murmured appreciatively. There's a mining colony called Sullivan's. Point, Jake added. Named after my squadron saved them from pirates. Lisa nodded. But I've never seen a colony named Blackwood or Sterling or Cross. Have you three ever done anything worthy of having a world named after you? The three women had no answer. A voice from the crowd called out, What can we do? How can we really help? Lisa's face lit up. Visit them. See what they're building. Talk to them. Learn from them. Another voice. But it's dangerous out there. Yes, Lisa said. It is, but that's what makes it important. The colonies aren't just charity cases. They're the future of humanity. They're proving that we can survive anywhere, build anything, overcome any challenge. She looked around the ballroom. You have money, influence, and power. The colonies have courage, determination, and hope. Imagine what we could accomplish if we worked together instead of looking down on each other. The crowd began to applaud again. But this time it was different. It wasn't just appreciation for Lisa's words. It was understanding. Jake stepped forward. I have an announcement to make. The ballroom fell silent. The 5th Battle Group is organizing visits to the colonies. Safe, escorted tours for anyone who wants to see what their donations actually accomplish. People began talking excitedly. Several raised their hands, volunteering immediately. But first, Jake said, his voice turning cold as he looked at Helena, Victoria, and Camille. We need to address the behavior we witnessed tonight. The three women looked terrified. They had gone from being the center of attention to being the most despised people in the room. What you did was not just rude, Jake continued. It was an attack on everything that makes humanity great. You tried to tear down someone who represents the best of our species. Helena finally found her voice. We're sorry. We didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't care to know, Jake replied. You saw a uniform and made assumptions. You saw working-class origins and felt superior. Victoria tried to apologize. If we could take it back. But you can't, said Lisa. Words have consequences. Actions have results. The crowd was watching to see what would happen next. The three women who had started the evening as social queens now stood alone and ashamed. But Lisa Martinez was just getting started. Lisa Martinez looked at Helena, Victoria, and Camille standing alone in the middle of the ballroom. Their perfect makeup was smudged. Their expensive dresses looked wrinkled. Their confident smiles were gone. She felt something unexpected. Not anger, but sadness. I don't want your apologies, Lisa said quietly. I want your understanding. Helena's voice was small. We really didn't know who you were. That's the problem, Lisa replied. You should have treated me with respect even if I was nobody special, even if I really was just a delivery person. She looked around the ballroom at all the watching faces. Every person has value. Every job has dignity. The janitor who cleans these floors works just as hard as anyone here. Jake Sullivan nodded, approvingly. Lisa was showing the same wisdom she displayed in command decisions. But we can learn, Victoria said desperately. We can do better. Lisa studied the three women. They looked genuinely sorry now. But was it real regret or just embarrassment at being caught? Prove it, Lisa said. Camille blinked. What? Prove that you can do better. Come with me to the colonies. The ballroom erupted in surprised murmurs. No one had expected this. Helena looked terrified. Go to the colonies? But it's dangerous. Yes, Lisa said. It is. Are you brave enough? Victoria shook her head. We're not soldiers. We don't know how to survive in places like that. The colonists aren't soldiers either, Lisa pointed out. They're farmers, teachers, miners, scientists, regular people doing extraordinary things. Jake stepped forward. I'll guarantee their safety. My ships will escort them. Helena, Victoria, and Camille looked at each other nervously. The crowd waited to see what they would decide. I don't know, Helena stammered. An older man in the crowd called out, I'll go. It was Senator Rodriguez from the Mars colonies. I've been sending money to the outer worlds for years. It's time I saw what they're doing with it. A woman raised her hand. My company donated mining equipment to 3 colonies. I'd love to see how it's working. More hands went up around the ballroom. Business leaders, politicians, celebrities. People who had never thought about visiting the dangerous frontier worlds were volunteering. Lisa smiled. This was better than she had hoped. Wonderful, she said. We'll organize groups of 10. Each group will visit 3 colonies over 2 weeks. You'll stay in the same shelters as the colonists, eat the same food, work alongside them. A nervous laugh came from someone in the crowd. Work alongside them? Of course, Jake said. You can't understand the colonies by staying in luxury hotels. You have to experience what life is really like out there. Helena looked pale. 2 weeks? In those conditions? The colonists live there for years, Lisa reminded her. Some for their whole lives. Victoria tried one more excuse. But our businesses need us here. The colonies need you more, said a new voice. Everyone turned. A young woman had entered the ballroom. She wore a simple blue dress and carried a tablet computer. She looked nervous but determined. Excuse me, the woman said. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm Rebecca Torres from the Charity Coordination Office. The gala organizers looked confused. Rebecca wasn't supposed to be here. I've been monitoring the news feeds, Rebecca continued. Word about tonight's discussion has already reached 12 colony worlds. She held up her tablet. The colonists are sending messages. They want to meet the people who've been helping them. Rebecca swiped through the messages. Frontier Station says they're preparing guest quarters. Ice World Research Base wants to show off their new greenhouse. The miners on Asteroid Base 7 are planning a welcome celebration. Lisa felt tears in her eyes. The colonists were reaching out, wanting to share their achievements with their benefactors. They're excited, Rebecca said. They've never had visitors from Earth before. They want to prove that their hard work is paying off. Helena, Victoria, and Camille looked around the ballroom. Every face was watching them expectantly. Well? Jake asked. Will you go? Helena took a shaky breath. If we go, will you forgive us for tonight? Lisa considered this. Forgiveness isn't something you earn by taking a vacation, but understanding? That comes from seeing the truth with your own eyes. I'll go, said Victoria suddenly. I want to see what my family's mining company has helped build. Camille nodded slowly. My husband's hotels are comfortable because other people take risks to make them possible. I should meet those people. Helena was the last to decide. She looked at her expensive jewelry, her perfect dress, her manicured nails. Then she looked at Lisa's simple uniform and honest face. Yes, she said quietly. I'll go. The ballroom erupted in applause. People cheered and whistled. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Jake raised his hand for quiet. The first expedition leaves in 2 weeks. We'll start with the safest colonies and work our way out to the frontier. Rebecca stepped forward again. Actually, sir, there's been a change to tonight's program. Everyone looked confused. The charity auction was supposed to be the finale, Rebecca explained. But the bids are coming in electronically now. People from all over human space are donating. She looked at her tablet in amazement. We've already raised more money tonight than in the previous 5 years combined. The crowd gasped. Lisa looked stunned. It's because of the news coverage, Rebecca continued. The story of Captain Martinez and Commander Sullivan is spreading across the galaxy. People want to support the colonies now more than ever. Jake shook his head in wonder. Sometimes the best way to help people is to tell their story. Lisa walked over to Helena, Victoria, and Camille. The three women tensed, unsure what to expect. "Thank you," Lisa said simply. Helena looked confused. "For what? We were horrible to you." "For giving me a chance to speak up for the colonies," Lisa replied. "I've been too quiet for too long. Tonight forced me to find my voice." She extended her hand to Helena. "Partners?" Helena stared at the offered hand. A few hours ago, she had considered Lisa beneath her notice. Now she was being offered partnership by someone she realized was far braver and more accomplished than herself. Helena took Lisa's hand. "Partners." Victoria and Camille stepped forward, and soon all four women were shaking hands. The crowd applauded again. Jake Sullivan watched with satisfaction. This was what humanity did best. They fought, they argued, they made mistakes, but in the end, they came together to build something better. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced to the crowd, "tonight we've witnessed something important. We've seen that our greatest strength isn't our technology or our wealth. It's our ability to recognize courage wherever we find it." He gestured toward Lisa. "Captain Martinez represents millions of people throughout human space who risk everything to expand our civilization. They deserve our respect, our support, and our gratitude." The applause was thunderous. People stood on chairs to see better. Someone started chanting Lisa's name, and soon the entire ballroom had joined in. Lisa felt overwhelmed, but also proud. Not proud of the attention, but proud of what had been accomplished. The colonies would get more help. People would visit them, understand them, support them better. Most importantly, working people everywhere would know that their contributions mattered. As the evening wound down, Lisa found herself standing with Jake near the crystal windows overlooking Earth. "Thank you," she said, "for speaking up, for defending me." Jake smiled. "You didn't need defending. You needed a platform. Tonight gave you that." Lisa looked out at the stars. Somewhere among them were 43 colonies she had visited. Millions of people working to build humanity's future. "Do you think they'll really go through with the visits?" she asked. Jake nodded. "Helena, Victoria, and Camille? Yes. They're proud people. They won't back down from a challenge now that everyone is watching. And the others? Some will go, some won't, but enough will go to make a difference." Lisa smiled. "Jenny Clark is going to be so excited to meet real visitors from Earth." "The colonists will change them," Jake said. "You can't spend time with people that brave and dedicated without being inspired." As they watched, a supply ship launched from the station below, heading out toward the frontier. Lisa knew that ship. It was carrying medicine, food, and equipment to 3 colonies in the outer rim. "That's us," she said quietly. Jake followed her gaze. "That's humanity, always moving forward, always reaching for something better." Lisa thought about the evening's events. It had started with humiliation and ended with triumph. Not her triumph, but humanity's. People coming together, understanding each other, working toward common goals. That was the real HFY story. Not individual heroes, but entire civilizations, of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. In the morning, Lisa would return to her duties. There would be more supply runs, more colonies to visit, more lives to save. But tonight had changed something important. Tonight, she had found her voice, and that voice would speak for every person brave enough to risk everything for humanity's future among the stars.